Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode. Today, I have a very special treat. You get to hear and learn from the brilliant Linsday Poelman. Before I turn it over to her or even introduce her at all, I need to say that she's a brilliant coach. She's got a brilliant mind, but she's also one of my very dearest friends. We've become really close in our coaching journey. We are fellow coaches and rubbed shoulders that way, and have gotten really close over the years. And so it's really fun to bring her here for you to learn from her. You may go back a few episodes quite a while ago. I had her on once before. It's been a long time, and it's time to bring her back. Hello, and welcome to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, where courageous women learn not only to heal from their spouse's betrayal, but to become the boldest, truest, most decisive, and confident versions of themselves ever. If you know there's more for you than the life you're currently living, but don't quite know how to get there, you are in the right place. Stick around to learn how to create a life that will knock your own socks off. Is it possible? It is, and I'm here to show you how. I'm your host, Andrea Giles. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Lindsay, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. Hello.
So happy to be here. Always love an excuse to have a phone call with you.
Thank you. We're just sharing it. We're letting people in on our phone call today.
Yes.
I love it.
We should have recorded the last 30 minutes of us.
That's true.
Maybe 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You would have learned a lot listening to that.
Ooh,
anyway.
Actually, yeah, lots of good topics there.
Yes, lots of good stuff. A topic that comes up a lot as people are navigating the aftermath of infidelity is boundaries. It comes up a lot. And there are so many different definitions around boundaries. You hear from one expert and they have a completely different idea than another. Today, we're going to talk about boundaries, and we're going to talk about really taking sovereignty, really stepping into owning your space, owning your decisions. Before we jump into it, I looked up the definition of sovereignty, and it says supreme power or authority, or the authority to govern itself. That's sovereignty, okay? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I want to just go ahead and turn the time over. I'll be here, but I want to hear from Lindsay. Lindsay, will you please just share a little bit about yourself first? So just for a reference of who you are, what you do, how you know so much about this.
Well, I might be my own avatar, my friend, in a lot of ways. I mean, aren't we all? But so my name is Linsday Poelman. How far back do you want me to go?
As far as you want. As far as you want.
I mean, really, really briefly, my partner and I, we got married. When did we get married? Almost 18 years ago. And when we got married 18 years ago, we were very much like your check the box American couple. Like, if we do this, then this happens type thing. And so we were like, all right, let's check all of these boxes off and make some serious stuff happen. And so we kind of like set up and set life goals and dreams together and did a lot of really cool things. He became a dentist. I got my master's in tax accounting. I worked for a big four firm in LA before we had our 3 kids. And then right after our third, we just bought our house in like the nice neighborhood, all those little American dream things. And within 4 months of having our third, he had a big mental breakdown, which now he calls it kind of his awakening. But at the time, it does not feel like that. Like if someone would have said, oh, he's just having an awakening, I probably would have wanted to like punch them in the face. So he had a mental breakdown and stopped working. And that was kind of the catalyst for us really starting to like prioritize, cut the fat, out of our lives, things that weren't working, and really decide what was working. And so I went back to work as an accountant for a firm in Silicon Valley. And, after a few years of doing that, I just realized it wasn't my passion, even though I was good at it. And so I kind of started embarking on, what could I do that lights me up? And I kind of realized then that I was already helping a lot of people who were going through similar things as me, because my husband also, not only was there like the mental illness and the childhood trauma that led to the mental breakdown, but he'd also been lying to me about porn use. So there's betrayal trauma in that respect as well to heal from, and a lot of other stuff, which too long to talk about. But Yeah, I felt like I was helping people a lot. And so I decided to become certified as a life coach. And I didn't know where that was going to take me, but I knew it was supposed to be the next step. And so got certified. I think Andrea certified right after me, and then we met. And I would say even before I got certified, I already kind of had a plan to have like a trauma certification addendum to the certification program that I went through in my head. Because I was like, oh yeah, like we can go deeper. And then I would say after coaching women through betrayal trauma and then having coaches come hire me for all of their different things they were going through that weren't even related to betrayal trauma, I just started seeing a lot of gaping holes in the coaching industry. And so I decided to come up with an advanced certification to support people, to support coaches so they could feel, more confident in the work that they're doing and understand trauma and nervous system work. And then from there, I had past clients who wanted to become life coaches who weren't coaches yet. And so I, from there, set up a full certification program for them. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I love teaching about, like Andrea said, boundaries as an act of self-sovereignty, because I think it's really important that we know that we have authority and autonomy over our lives, our decisions, our bodies. And so it's important to me.
Thank you.
That was kind of long. Sorry.
It's perfect. I think it's perfect. And, I think that the boundaries conversation is one that needs to be ongoing anyway.
Yeah.
Because
totally.
I think it's, in some ways, it's kind of a buzzword too. And that I think we're kind of trying to learn what it is collectively. And the more we talk about it, the more we can each internalize that and really understand it and practice it and grow our abilities. So I think bringing it here and talking about it as an act of self-sovereignty is important. So let's dive in. Okay. So I want to hear from you, your take on boundaries and how they've developed.
Yeah, such a good question. I think what I would call emotional boundaries 101 is a little bit built off for me, the visual of like what a physical boundary might look like, right? If you have a yard, there's a fence line. That fence line is your property. You don't necessarily have to go announcing to everybody that walks on the sidewalk, like, this is my yard, don't come into my yard or else, right? But it's once someone comes in to your fence line, you might be like, hey, what you doing here? Can you leave? If they don't leave, you might set some sort of boundary. Hey, if you don't leave, I'll go get my husband or I'll call the cops or things like that. And so I love the imagery of physical boundaries as kind of a setup for someone to understand emotional boundaries, where we have like our emotional fence line. And if it feels like that's getting encroached, we have the right to say something and to leave the room if we need to, and do it in a way where we're not trying to manipulate someone's behavior, but more as an act of self-protection. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. But what I have noticed is because of our socialization as women, because we're, so socialized to be fixers and rescuers and put other needs behind our own, it can actually make it really difficult to not only recognize when our emotional fence line has been crossed, but to recognize and enforce personal boundaries, especially in tough relationships. Because if you know somebody, or maybe if you're listening and you have a hard time setting boundaries, or if you know someone that isn't following through on boundaries, it's not because they're weak. It's oftentimes more of a nervous system capacity thing. And so I love talking about boundaries from more of a nervous system capacity standpoint, because I think it's easier for people to, instead of checking in, and because of the socialization again, where we may default to self-gaslighting, like, oh, he's maybe not crossing my emotional line, or maybe he is, but this and this and this, so maybe I'll just this. Instead of like that questioning part, if we just look at capacity, I think it can make it a little more straightforward for people who are learning how to see if a line's been crossed, create space, and also be thinking about the future you and you in the future.
Okay, tell me more about that. I want to hear more about capacity. Can you expound on that?
Yeah. So when I say capacity, as far as like having capacity to execute and maintain a boundary, it's a safety thing. Do I have the capacity to anchor into safety after setting and executing a boundary with somebody? And a lot of that comes down to knowing how to create enough safety in your body so that even when the person you're setting the boundary with, whether they freak out or don't freak out or give you the cold shoulder, you can anchor into what you know what you need, and let that be a priority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that that is such valuable work that is transformative, right? Just lately in my own group, I've been talking a lot about this around not wanting to be mean, not wanting to sound mean. And I feel like a mean person. And in some cases, they're being told that, right? They're saying, no, you cannot have access to me whenever you want. No, you cannot, whatever those things are. And then being told that they're being selfish and that they're being mean.
Yeah.
And it can be really unsettling, right? It can feel dangerous to our bodies to feel mean because there might have been a time in our life where it was unsafe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then when you're being told you're being mean or that something's wrong with you, that can often kind of like activate those biological parts of us where belonging and fitting in was a matter of survival, right?
Yep.
Even like 200 years ago, getting chosen to be married, a lot of that had to do with survival,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't know how to create safety in our body, if we don't have that capacity so that we can thrive, then when these like deeper systems that are kind of more focused on survival get activated, they will trump, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's about knowing what's happening in your body, understanding language of your body, and being able to recognize what's happening and tease out what's happening so that you can make an informed decision for each circumstance, because it can be different, day over day or month over month.
So tell me, in the work that you've done, when you're working with people where that is a challenge, like where their body does not yet have the capacity, right? How do you help people grow that capacity?
Yeah, it's a great question. The first thing that I usually do if I'm teaching boundaries more from this nervous system perspective is I kind of teach it in a way where we think about our bodies. And I actually got this from another mentor of mine, so I don't want to take credit for her idea, but it was so good that I was like, yeah, this is how we want to be teaching it. But where we think of our body as a one-person country, okay? We're a one-person country. Personally, again, a lot of people, if you're in America, I would say think of a European country and not America or a country within the Americas. I guess you could, but in my head, for the analogy, I use Europe because I used to live in Europe. So if you think about your body as a one-person country, there are resources that come, there are parts of the body that need attending to, and there are bordering countries that you have relationships with. Right? Where relationships need to be maintained interdependently. And the thing is like so many women have been socialized to just be like walked all over and to have such permeable boundaries that we almost don't even know like where our body starts or where it ends. And so when we can visualize it as a one woman country, it can kind of help things become more clear. People can get more clarity because if you think about a one-person country like France, that's very resourced, if they didn't set boundaries, all the countries around them would set them for them. Like, we'll take these mountains. These are pretty cool. We'll take this. We'll take this, right? So until you know where you start and finish, I don't want to say it's like the natural way of the world, but it just seems like some humans will take until they know like, oh, you like that waterfall. Sorry, I didn't know anyone was using it. So it doesn't even have to be malicious, but it can be in some ways. And the other thing I like about it too is like, well, so there's that space where you think about it like yourself as a one-person country, because then if someone is wanting to pull or take, then you're not just thinking about that moment. You're like, well, if they cut off my water supply, then all of this isn't taken care of, right? And so you really have to think about taking care of yourself in a different way and thinking about the future as well, so that you can come together and work in a healthy, interdependent way with these bordering countries. And by bordering countries, I might be talking about other intimate or closer relationships. And the other reason that I also like teaching about it this way is because there's one end of the spectrum that I think was taught a lot when I went through my coaching certification that was very like, take care of yourself. Everything is about you. No one's stuff can affect you unless you choose. It was very like, to me, a little more callous and robotic. But when you think of countries, if someone upstream from me doesn't care what they throw in their water, there's going to be impact there.
Yep.
Right. And so I actually think if you're in a partnership with somebody, what they're doing or not doing, like there's still impact. And so I like thinking about it that way. So we can be like, hey, like, I know you don't care because it's that river's going downstream, from your country to mine, but that actually is a big source here. And we don't have the resources to build a wall or keep that polluted water from coming in. And so I think it just helps people to kind of like really picture, like if you were to take what's happening in your relationship and put it on, a piece of paper to help you see where boundaries can be crossed in that way as well. Like there's still impact if you're not blank, blank, blank.
Yep. It makes me think about if we view ourselves with this sovereignty as like seeing the resources that we each have as our own country, right? That we have our own resources that are unique to us. And I think that there's a narrative, I know I was taught it, right, about becoming one, especially in marriage, right? You become one, and this, what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. And this can be quite dangerous because there are no boundaries there, right? It's just all of these resources that I have, they're just yours for the taking.
Exactly.
Right. And I can see how, I know for me, I really felt that, like I felt that kind of obligation in my first marriage very much of just like that I owed it, that it was part of my duty, right? To just make everything that I had available, that was like the noble thing to do. And I'm sure like there's yourself. A lot of listeners that resonate with that. Go ahead.
No, I was like yourself, your body,
totally,
your freaking name.
Everything.
Not that I'm opposed to changing my name, but back in the day when women couldn't hold property in their own name, becoming one just basically meant like you're turning everything over to another person. You lose your name, you lose your property, your right to inherit, based on the country you live in. And most importantly, like yourself, and I don't want to say that women didn't thrive and there weren't awesome women who saw through this. I know there were because we have movies and journals and things like that. But yeah, like that idea of becoming one instead of celebrating two, celebrating the differences so that we can, like Switzerland might be amazing at, like manicuring their mountains perfectly. And everything they do is so brilliant and beautiful. But like, what if we could celebrate that and also celebrate how France does France and how Italy does Italy so that we don't all absorb into one culture either,
Yep.
So I love it. That's, I don't know why, but the visual of countries really, really works for me because it really helps people think like, I still need to resource here. And instead of thinking like, I should be nice, like good girl, this and this. It's like, oh, wait, hold on. If I give this, then I won't be able to, take care of myself in this way, or I'll be under-resourced. And I think when we allow ourselves to like really take care of ourselves, I think to me personally, I think humanity is meant to be connected and to support each other. We're relational species. And so you see that with countries that work together too. I think Portugal, like they have all these amazing windmills, if you guys haven't been there recently. And they had so much extra power one year that they just like gave it to Spain, Wow. So it's like when we can take care of ourselves and let ourselves be supported, because we're supposed to be supported by humans. I'm not teaching this like hyper independence thing. I think it also helps us set ourselves up to know what we can give and maybe know ourselves so well that like what we end up giving has so much more impact than if we were just kind of not thinking about the richness of the particular soil in our country or this and that. So I think it helps us develop our unique gifts in such a way that like our impact on the world is unique in that way.
I love that. And I think that it brings up another issue that we probably both run into a lot is that often when people first come into my world, they've been so used to just freely flowing their resources, right? Just open door, like here, just take it, that there's this confusion about what's mine, what's yours. There's this confusion about what resources they have, right? We can name a few of like time, right? Just our physical labor, things like that. But there's emotional resources, right? There's all kinds of resources that we have that this takes really getting to know who we are and really understanding all that we are. Would you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, no, I love everything that you just mentioned there. Is there something specific in all of that that you're saying you would want me to speak to?
I guess my question, Lindsay, is as people are navigating boundaries, it can be confusing to know what should be a boundary, what should not be a boundary.
Yeah.
And even confusion about, I don't know what if we're talking back to the analogy, which I love about being your own country. Like, I don't exactly know what all of the things are that are like, is my soil rich? What are the amazing things about my country, really about me? And some people, we feel so lost sometimes in kind of these open borders, just like take, here, that it's like getting back to that sovereignty. And I am my own authority. I am my own individual. How do you recommend helping the listeners today learn how to really recognize these things, to really know what their boundaries are, to even see what they are?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the big thing is kind of just developing out your own skin, like where you start, where you end, but then also getting clear on like, what do I need? Right? Like, what do I need? What do I notice when I'm not setting a boundary? What does that feel like in my body? And so the more we can connect to our bodies, like our bodies are this piece of technology that I don't even think we have the capacity to fully, completely understand as humans. Our bodies know when stuff is happening that is not working for us. So just really, I would say the first thing would be just like, if there's any judgment or shame around what you have or haven't done, do what you can to release that. So it's not about learning to love your circumstances, maybe just accepting like, yeah, I haven't set boundaries because I haven't known differently. If anything, I've been taught to do it this way and I've internalized this and I know I want it to be different so that you can start being attuned to when boundaries are getting crossed. And in my programs, I have, different ways to kind of teach that through like self-trust triads and, learning how to develop our intuition and kind of tease some of that stuff out. But I would say the big thing is like just making sure you know if something's been crossed, see how that feels in your body. I know that might sound really foreign to some of you versus like whether it hasn't. If there's a way for you to start getting clear on what a yes feels like or a no feels like in your body, you could even start calibrating with really simplistic questions or simplistic things like, just something where you're really aligned in giving. Like maybe it's like volunteering at your child's school. You're like, that is my thing. And your body's like, yes, like it just feels it. But if there's conflict there or if there's something else, if you feel tightness, it doesn't have to mean you're a bad mom. And so I think just really starting to get to know your body and understanding what a yes or a no is and being willing to protect it kind of fiercely, I would say, like a fierce loving protection, the way you would protect a newborn. Again, if we let society choose how we love ourselves, if we don't intercept that, then we will all hate our noses. We will all hate our bodies. We will all be so consumed about what we don't have or who we aren't that we forget about who we are.
Yep. I love that. A question I have for you about that is when people are practicing really hearing their body, how do you recommend if their mind is like making them wrong for it, right? No, this is fine. Or if their mind is resistant to it because, for example, hearing that no means having to go do something or say something that they're very uncomfortable with. How do you help people calibrate to being able to let their body win out over their mind or fear, right?
Yeah, such a good question. I mean, I think a lot of it is getting clear on what you know and what you need. And if you're having a hard time quiet down those voices in your head, then instead of listening to them, you could try talking to them. And so sometimes with my clients, when they're way up in their head about setting boundaries because they don't know what is going to happen, I love the question, like, what do you know?
Mm-hmm.
So just bringing them back to what they know. And when they speak the truth of what they know, it can calm the storm
Mm-hmm.
in their head. So that's a really quick, easy way to do that. And so just reminding them of like, what do I know? Do I have a right to, go to sleep when I want, or not sleep with people who are cheating on me? Or,
Yep.
do I have a right to my own body? Right. And so if there's a way to like write down a list of like phrases that just bring you calm, then when you're up in your head, or if you do set a boundary and you're like, oh my gosh, you just get in a fight, literally you can kind of go back to this like little mini, what do you know, safety plan of like, it's okay to be me. It's okay to take up space. It's okay to have needs. It's okay to set boundaries. Boundaries are there to create intimacy and foster intimacy in a relationship. So even though sometimes when you change the dance, there's a little bit of stumbling there, to me, when you can set and maintain and execute boundaries for yourself, it's going to show you what the essence of your relationship is over time.
Mm-hmm.
Even if there's a little bit of kicking and screaming in the beginning, does your partner ultimately respect it?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep. Absolutely. When one person grows in their ability or heals in their ability, right, to be able to change that dance a little bit. Exactly. You're going to learn if they're willing to do the same or if they're going to dig their heels in. And that's really good to know, right? It's really good to know.
Yeah.
You're making me think about sometimes it's just these simple things. Like, as all of you know, I'm a coach. I spend a lot of my time talking to people. And sometimes at the end of the day, I just want to go for a walk by myself. And I have kids home for the summer, right? And often I have some of my teenagers that see me heading out the door and want to come with me. And even that, things like that, just simple things where my body is like, I just need a minute before I go be mom, right? Before I go make dinner or be with the kids or go on a second walk, things like that. And I think even things like that are ways to practice this sovereignty, ways to practice, what do I need? We don't have to justify it. Other people do not need to understand it. I love the analogy about a country. A different country is going to have different things that they need than what my country needs.
Yeah.
And it's okay, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you're sourced up at the top of the Alps, you probably never have to think about water flow.
No.
Well, you might think initially that you don't.
Right. That's true.
Then you trash things and then people trash things. And eventually, we're so interconnected. And at the same time, the more we can take care of ourselves on a micro level, the more it creates a macro impact that the world needs.
Mm-hmm.
So really for all of your women, if they're struggling with that, oh, this is selfish. To me, that's what I see is it starts with you taking care of you. And that's what's going to have the natural organic impact on the world, on your family, on your relationship that it needs to have. And that's what we want to be modeling to our kids. What if we're the generation of women that breaks these chains so that our kids, our daughters and our sons do it differently?
Yep.
Where they don't have to figure it out in their 20s, 30s, 40s. They just know of course I can take up space. Of course I can be loud. Of course I can speak up if I have a weird teacher or if that gym guy, whatever. I want my kids to be loud and take up space and speak up. And so doing my best to model that,
Yep, absolutely. So let's talk for a few minutes here about boundaries as an act of self-sovereignty. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, to me, the way I see female sovereignty, it refers to the concept of women having full authority and autonomy over their own lives, decisions, and bodies. This encompasses a broad range of ideas and practices that are aimed to empower us, assert our independence, make our own choices, and live according to our own values and desires. Okay. And so this can look like decision-making power, making your own choices regarding careers. This can look like control over your own body, right? Reproductive choices and things like that. And I will just say, because of the scope of your podcast, sexual agency as well, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Being married to someone doesn't mean you owe them something. This is not a traditional thing. So just feel like we can't ever emphasize that enough. with women.
Yep.
I actually have a phrase in my, this is a tiny aside. I have a phrase in my coach certifications. I teach these coaches how to do deep emotional processing and things like that. And I'm huge on consent, and not just consent where it's like, oh, they hired me a month ago, I have full consent. Teaching women to check in with their body pretty consistently and rechecking and giving consent. And so sometimes with the coaches, I'll say, just like sex, you can stop anytime.
I love it. I love it.
But it's a real thing because so many of us have been socialized to defer to authority figures, so much so that we end up doing it with coaches that we're paying, or therapists that we're paying, or doctors that we're paying.
Totally.
Yeah. We are the paying customers. So just tossing that out there.
I love it.
But again, the sovereignty with respect to economic independence, emotional and psychological well-being, self-confidence, social and cultural empowerment. So much of that. And then I would just say like the spiritual and inner sovereignty piece. And all of this is very developmentally appropriate for who we are as humans, where there's a phase of our human/spiritual development where we seek out external authorities, but it's actually normal, a normal part of your human development or spiritual development, but I see them as the same, to turn to your inner authority. Okay. And just know that, like, for me personally, I have never felt more connected to myself by doing this. And thankfully, I'm in a partnership where generally like very, very supported, but just know that like not everybody loves it, because a lot of people love when we are people pleasers, because then they get what they want, right? They can take what they need from us. And so there are, social constructs that layer in confusion and self-gaslighting and things like that. But I think what the world is starving for right now are women who have claimed their sovereignty and feel safe enough to act on that and be seen however they're meant to. Their impact might be in their home. It might be in their job. It might be as an entrepreneur. It might be really loud, as an influencer, but only if you feel sovereign. But I think the world is headed on a great trajectory for this, even though it's kind of a little fiery right now. But to me, it's what will save the world. More people claiming their sovereignty.
Yes. Amen to all of that. I want to give a little background here with my relationship here with Lindsay. Back in, I'm trying to remember, it's been about 2.5 years ago in my coaching practice, right? In the infidelity space, there's a lot of intense emotion that my clients are dealing with. There are various experts that say it's not trauma, and then there are the experts that said that it is. I myself take the stance that who gets to define that, but the person who's experienced it. But we need to understand how to help. Right? We need to understand how to hold people and help them with however they are experiencing this crisis in their life, right? And the definition is less important than what the person in front of you is experiencing. And with that, I ended up joining Lindsay's program and went through her program for coaches, a trauma certification, because I feel a great responsibility to my clients to make sure that I do no harm by not being aware, right? By not understanding. And I brought in some practices that have helped my clients that I can help in real time while they're really in it, to be able to get back into their bodies and feel and be present to what's going on with them, rather than trying to cognitively, move them along, right? And so with that, I wanted to share here, in my journey, I've had a lot of people that have been so impacted by the work in the coaching world that I've had many people come and say, I think I want to do this too. I want to go help other people. I feel a call. I've had so many people say that. Clients, people who have listened to this podcast that have felt that there's something more for them. And one of the things I wanted to have Lindsay on to share is that for any of you listening who feel something as you are listening, that feel truth in the words that we're saying, that feel lit up, that feel inspired, whatever it is, and feel a call to learn more, Lindsay offers a program for people who have never coached before, people who have never done it before. And for any of you who are looking to just to learn these things, to expand on them, whether it be for yourself or to have your own career. I wanted Lindsay to share a little bit about what that looks like. As I said, I've been through her program for coaches, but now with one of her programs, anyone can go through it. And before I turn it over to Lindsay, I want to say that without hesitation, I can say that I have been the biggest product of everything that I put out in the world. Everything that I've learned, everything that I share, I have had the biggest benefit from it because I've learned these new things and then I can apply them and have been able to really change my own life. And there is a lot of benefit in just learning these things and deepening your understanding and practicing them, whether you have an intention of building a business or just really understanding, really getting a deeper understanding. And so with that, Lindsay, can you share with us a little bit more about what this looks like for people who have never coached before?
Yeah. Oh, such a good question. Thanks for your kind words and for everything that you say. I think the people that seem to come my direction are those who start noticing that they're like one of the first people that others call in crisis.
Yep.
Like, oh, it seems like people really turn to me. That's kind of where I start sometimes. Is like, if you feel like you are that person or that does happen, or if you just know that you have like serious gifts and power to offer the world and you haven't figured out how to turn it into something. I actually get a lot of people who I just finished with my first like full life coach certification group. And it was so cool to see everyone come through because it wasn't just people who had never worked. We had entrepreneurs who were like, I just want to figure out how to integrate this into my business. We have people who had a lot of other certifications who wanted to like layer it on because they see the power of like blending like their spiritual gifts that they have and earthing it with all of the trauma-informed information. So marrying that, which is a lot of the work that we do. And so the cool thing about the program is that it's a certification program. It's a full trauma-informed coach certification where you are going to be trauma and nervous system informed by the time you finish. But also it will set you up to start a business as a life coach. Or if you're already doing something, you can kind of layer all of this understanding into what you're doing so that you're able to have more of the impact that you want to have, right? The impact that you want to have on the world. And so the thing I love about this particular program too, that a lot of other coaches have said is that it's live. So all the instructional calls are live so that you can ask questions live, you can get feedback live and things like that. And not only are you learning the ivory tower stuff, we have a workbook. It's like 400 pages. I've developed my own trauma-informed mindset model that I teach now that's different than the one that I went through because we are multidimensional humans. So we want to have a multifaceted approach to be more inclusive and meet more humans where they're at. And so while we have all that really good stuff, like the foundational like stuff, like workbook stuff and all of that, I have the program set up so that you can self-apply with respect to your stickiest relationship during the entire program. So I have a journal prompt, like a big journal prompt that kind of goes along everything that we talk about, questions that go along with the stuff that we're teaching. So you can be self-applying throughout the entire program with respect to whatever your toughest relationship is, or just what you want to work on. And it doesn't have to be a person. It can be a place, a thing, an experience, money, a religious institution, or anything like that. And so you're also getting that as well. And you're seeing me coach live. And then we also have supervised peer coaching at the end too. So it's been really phenomenal. And I think one of my favorite parts about it is I call myself a super connector. I've been told that. Now I just let myself call myself that. But bringing people together, like where we're all part of this co-manifestation process and we're all doing what we can to support an environment that's very conducive to safety, because that's the foundation we need for healing and growth. But then seeing everybody connect with each other is like, I get so many dopamine hits from that. And so that's been really, really fun as well. And to me, some people invest in this program not even knowing, like, I don't know if I'll become a coach. Right. I just know I want this information. And it like transforms so much in their marital relationships and things like that. So it's like cheaper than divorce in a lot of ways. And so when I think of all the programs that I paid for and went through, what you're getting here is like so much more than your general life coach certification, because we've interwoven so many contextual layers of understanding so that you can be more inclusive in how you look and see the world, and also just how you treat people and meet your clients where they're at. So it's
Beautiful.
pretty awesome.
It is awesome. And you just reminded me when I went through it, that piece about bringing your stickiest relationship. I remember that. And I remember, getting help, getting coaching. And so not only are you learning all of these things, but there's a big integration piece where you're really practicing it with yourself in your own life, right?
Yeah.
Which is so healing. And then you can use that, as you said, in whatever capacity you want as a layer on to what you're already doing, as a starting point, right? But really to leave with a deeper understanding of yourself. What a gift. What a gift, right?
Yeah, it's huge. And we have ongoing continuing education and, a year of monthly mentorship calls even after the program. So I do my best to keep bringing people in, even post, like even for your group that went through forever ago.
Yep.
You guys are still invited to, stuff that I have. If I update the workbook, Andrea's group gets it too.
Yep. It's awesome.
It's great.
Yeah, it is. It is. I do too. Well, thank you so much for being on today. I want to let all of you know that if you felt something here, if you want to learn more from Lindsay, the information to find her and to go work with her will be in the show notes. And I will say that, yes, she's one of my very best friends, but part of the reason why is because she's one of the safest people I know in my whole life, in all of my people. She's one of the safest people. And she also has a way of making you think a little bit differently about things in your life without it feeling threatening at all. Like really, she's just a gift. She's a gift. And I encourage you to go learn more from her. Is there anything you would like to say or share before we wrap it up today?
No, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for everyone listening. What we'll do is I'm going to send Andrea like a unique link for people to buy. And with that, you should be able to have a coupon code to give yourself some prime pricing.
Awesome.
So anyway, it's an awesome program. It's a very whole bodied approach. And
I love it.
It's the best. We start in September.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much for being on. And thank you, everybody, for being here today. I will see you next week.
Thank you. See you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast. If you would like to be kept in the know about upcoming free classes, new podcast episodes, and other ways of working with me, go subscribe to my weekly email. You can subscribe at AndreaGiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. Again, it's AndreaGiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. I will see you next time.